This video has been made possible by Paradox Interactive. Join the official Stellaris Discord server using the link in the description below. Welcome everybody to an introduction into the new economy system within the latest update of Stellaris console. This is the big one. This is a massive update. Everything that you know is no longer valid. I'm sorry, but we're gonna need to start from scratch. Welcome to Economy 101, because that's what we're gonna be talking about, the new economy system within the game. And it is quite a doozy. Now, at some times in this video, it may feel that I am going very fast from system to system, and it may seem a little bit confusing sometimes. Don't worry, the feeling is natural. It can be confusing sometimes because it is a giant spiderweb of interconnecting systems that have been rolled out for you to enjoy. Now, of course, if you do feel that, hey, I cannot really follow what is going on, feel free to jump onto the official Stellaris Discord. The link is in the description below, and ask me any question that you would like when it comes to this particular system. In this particular video, we're going to be looking at the start of the game and then a more advanced economy as well to basically illustrate what is going on within the game at large. So, let's dive right in, shall we? Let's take a look here at our star map. As you can see, we have spawned within the Commonwealth of Man here in this random Stellaris galaxy. And let's take a look here at our capital system. As you can see, at the start of the game, initially, our entire system has been surveyed. All the resources have been laid bare, so we can mine them immediately. As well as several resources are already being mined in general. This means that we have a much more powerful economy at the start of the game, so we can start to get going out there within the galaxy at large. That right there is pretty important, don't you think? Previously, it took a little while to get rolling. Now, 6 years in, you will be swimming. Now, let's take a look at our planetary interface. Oh my, it is quite different, isn't it? Yes, the tiles have been ripped out and they have been replaced not by these wonderful little building slots at the bottom. No, they have been replaced by these 4 districts. These are the core of your economy, and I cannot stress enough that it is important to make sure that people are always working there. We will get to population shortly. Now, these districts are the illustration of your basic infrastructure, from energy to minerals to food. And of course, we've got this mysterious city district here as well. Now, the city district is basically something that generates, as the name implies, cities as well as a pop job. Pop jobs are all brand new, and they basically are something that your pops can work at in order to generate the resources that you want. This of course also applies to the generator districts, the mining districts, and the agricultural districts, because they will generate their own amounts of jobs as well as living space. For instance, the mining districts as well as the energy districts, which I think is some of the more important ones, generate 2 housing and 2 jobs, whereas the city districts generate 5. So if you have a lot of specialists, which we will talk about shortly because they work in these little buildings over here, you will need a lot of city districts in order to make sure that they have places to live. Now let's take a look at our pops, shall we? What do? What do they want? Well, just like anybody else, they want to be able to live properly. They want to have jobs. They want to have consumer goods to consume, but also want to have amenities, big old couches and widescreen TVs. And that's right, you're going to be producing all of that. Now, they are completely different from before, whereas before everybody was effectively equal. Now everything is split up in a society of strata. Rulers are at the top, followed by the specialists, followed by the workers. Workers at the start of any sort of planetary settlement will be the majority of your population. However, as an economy develops, specialists will slowly but steadily start to take over that role, especially on the smaller planets where there is a lot of space for buildings and specialists, but not a lot of space for districts, and we will go over that shortly. So let's take a look here at our workers. There they all are. They generate certain types of resources. So for instance, the technicians here, they produce 4.3 energy per person. Miners, same thing there with the minerals, and the farmers, they produce a little bit more, 6.5 food. Now they also consume food. Every single pop will consume a certain amount of food. Specialists will consume 1, workers will consume 1, but of course the rulers, they have to be different. In some cases they will produce, consume even more, which can be a little bit awkward because, of course, the fat top wants to eat a little bit more. Now, the workers are, of course, settled in their jobs like technicians, miners, farmers. Slaves are also under this, and being purged is, I believe, the same category as well. Now, as I mentioned before, you always want to make sure that these jobs are filled, because if they are not, the economy will start to slump. And you may ask, but ASpec, there are workers here right now. Why would they move somewhere else? Well, if there is a specialist building that does not have any workers in it, like any certain person in society, a worker will try to move into a specialist slot immediately, leaving their own slot completely empty. And especially in some cases, like mining and technicians, this can mean that we will have a deficit on our economy. So it's really, really important that as we look at our planetary status here on the middle of the screen, that there are always workers available for jobs. Now, unemployment is bad, but having way too many jobs that are specialist jobs in particular open is not good for your economy. If you do not have basic workers within your districts and only in the specialist slots, your economy will suffer. Therefore, it's always a good idea to start building a new district or a new building whenever you have only one more job available in your economy. You can also go to 0, but then you have the risk that you have a pop idling, and that's not particularly optimal, is it? We don't like being non-optimal here. Yeah, I thought so as much. Another thing on the planetary status is stability. The more stable your planet is, the higher the happiness. Crime on the planet, that is a new system. We will not go too deeply into that today. The amount of buildings that are available that people can live in, right now it is 8. So that means that we have 8 pops worth of building available. Amenities, which is those basically like art and salons and stuff like that. Amenities are good. The more amenities you have, the more happiness pops will generate, which means stability will go up, and of course their output will go up as well. You can go down to you can lower this if you want. It's not really the end of the world, but still it's nice to have, because who doesn't want to keep their population happy? Of course, you can always go to the species rights tab if you have the season 1 pass, and as well as Utopia. Then you can set the species rights of your species to whatever you want in order to create more amenities as they, output them. Now, as we've covered the separate types of districts, they only generate the basic materials. And as you may have noticed in the top of the screen, there are several new materials as well. One of them are consumer goods, and we kind of touched upon this. We have alloys, which is the cornerstone of your economy. You can never have enough alloys. The special strategic resources, it has been completely overhauled, giving a fresh coat of paint, and they are now subdivided into the 3 core ones: volatile motes, exotic gases, and rare crystals. The other ones are special ones for the late game. You don't really need them early on, but you can trade them, which is something we'll touch upon shortly. Nanites are also nice for research and stuff like that. But yeah, motes are used for the generation of alloys, gases for technology, and rare crystals are used for the generation of consumer goods, or at least the more advanced buildings in terms of upkeep. So yeah, there you have it, the general overview of our economy. So we will never want to have these slots empty if we can avoid it. Specialists, of course, are good because, well, look at these guys. They're generating research and they're generating alloys. And this one is stopping crime. And these guys are stopping the production of people being bored because, of course, they produce the consumer goods. Now, on the surface, of course, we have our planetary features. Tile blockers are very much still a thing, except in this particular case, they block districts. So what do they actually block? Well, as you can see, if we look over our districts over here, some of them are redded out. This means that they are currently blocked by planetary features. In this particular case, an industrial wasteland, 2 of them, as well as a sprawling slum. The sprawling slum is a unique starter building, or at least blocker on your planet. If you remove it, you will get a free pop that you can use in your economy early on, which is incredibly useful and should not be discounted. So let's quickly unpause the game and see what we can get here, because let's take a look at the wonders of our income. As you can see, As you can see, we are currently generating enough food, we have enough minerals, but we have a small lack of energy credits. Why do we lack energy credits? It has to do with our market. That's right, we have a market now. If you are lacking a certain amount of resources within the game, let's say you do not have enough consumer goods, and in fact you are bleeding consumer goods, you can always go onto the market and just straight up buy consumer goods by going into this menu and buy 50 or 250 all the way up to 5,000. Any excess materials you can always sell off for energy, and you can always use that energy then to buy the resource that you need. In some cases, you will want to use automatic trades, whereas you may have too much food, for instance. So let's say that we want to sell 10 food, and we will then do that. We will then confirm it, and then we should have that immediately being reflected into our economy as we will start losing food income at the end of the month. There you go. So we're actually buying food now, my apologies, and that is immediately impacting our economy. So let's just remove this. So we can just delete this, and then our economy will immediately recover. So in certain cases, when you are lacking resources, you can always sell a material. Say I want to sell something here. Let's say minerals. I want to sell 9 minerals. I will get a certain amount of resources for that, and that will then automatically update on a month-by-month basis. And this is completely dependent on the market, of course, as well. As you can see, we are now getting less resources. Ooh, the first league. How very exciting. But yeah, there you have it, a generalized overview of the in-space economy. Except, we forgot about something. Something really important. Something that is not on the interface. It's not here at all. No, no, no. We are going to be talking about the wonders of trade value. As you go over the map, you see these little icons, these little rings that are on the map. These are representations of trade value. Our capital, of course, generates trade value as well. As we quickly go to Unity over here, as you can see, it generates 11 trade value. That is a rather significant amount. Now, trade value is produced by the joys. That is, of course, the clerks in the clerk district. So if we go to our population here and we go to our workers, specifically our clerks, you see that our clerks are generating trade value as well as amenities. Both of them are very, very important. So please keep an eye on that. So trade value, like I mentioned, is important because what can we do with trade value? Well, let's say that we want to go to our society tab because we want to spend our trade value on something. As you can see, the trade policy is already open. So what does this do? Now, basically, trade policy allows us to set what our trade value does. Wealth creation, which generates 1 unit of energy for every unit of trade value that we generate. Consumer goods, which does almost the same thing, except it generates half the energy and 0.25 consumer goods. Extremely good. And of course, marketplace of ideas, which is very similar to consumer benefits, except it generates 0.15 unity. This is very good in the late game if you're still struggling to fill out your tradition tree and you want to make sure that you have enough unity, then this is a good way to go. Just be aware that if you do not have enough energy available or you're floating your entire energy market on your trade, then you may want to stave off on this because it's half of your trade income that will go away. So make sure that your trade income, you have that and then subtract that from your total income, and then you know exactly what you're going to be up against. Of course, if you go into the minus, you can always sell off some minerals or food or consumer goods or whatever. Don't sell off alloys. They are way too important and they're way too awesome. Never sell off alloys, even if they are super, super valuable. Let's take a look at a more advanced economy, shall we? Because this empire needs to grow, and you may want to have an idea of what a larger economy looks like that just has more than one planet. Welcome to the year 2283, a mere 83 years after the start of the game. That's not even a quarter way through one of my default games, really. Go all the way up to 2400. Way to go. But yeah, as you can see, there's been some changes here. As you can see at the top of the screen, we've got a rather interesting economy. We got a Deficit of energy credits. We've got way too many minerals. We've got a reasonable amount of food. Consumer goods and alloys are being produced by the hundreds. And of course, we have a fair amount of strategic resources as well. We currently have 250 pops, as well as a reasonable fleet, because I have been busy. Welcome to the Commonwealth of Man, and of course, our vassals to the south. Yes, that's right, we have some tributaries as well to boost our economy. But that's not why we're here. We're here to properly illustrate what an economy looks like within the game. And for that, I'm going to need to illustrate by changing the map mode slightly. And that is the details map mode, of course. So, as you can see, we have expanded quite a lot, and as you can see as well, there are multiple areas in space that are producing quite a lot of resources. For instance, we have a precursor empire over here that produces a bunch of alloys in space, but also a bunch of gas. Motes are being produced, energy, trade value, and all that stuff. It's being picked up, and I believe we have some more interesting strategic resources over here as well. You can ignore the trade value in space. We're going to go and talk about that in a separate video. However, what is important is that we need to talk about my general economy and what you can expect from a standard game here. So let's take a look at our planets, all 7 of them. And as you can see, the interface has changed a little bit here. Specifically, let's take this particular planet, Leidelican Prime, and that's what I'm going to call it, and that's what I'm sticking with it. As you can see, we have a reasonable amount of pops on this planet, 57. There is no crime, there is reasonable stability, but also we are generating enough amenities. However, we do not have any jobs available, and we have some unemployment. Or do we? And this is kind of important because this is something that can confuse people very easily, because it confused me when I first saw it being rolled out. As you can see, we have a lot of specialist buildings here. Not enough. We can upgrade some of them using volatile motes and crystals, etc. But we have enough jobs available for specialists, right? Well, if we take a look here at our specialist screen, all of these jobs are being filled. But why is this? Why is this a thing? We've got some slaves, or interns working pretty hard as clerks. We got our technicians and our miners. Now, what is important here is to see that we've got 2 of these jobs empty. So where is this unemployment coming from? Well, the unemployment is coming from our robots. Robots are no longer being built manually. No, you can build them automatically through the robotic assembly plant. This means that you no longer have to go into individual tiles and say, hey, I want to build a robot on this particular mine. But the mine is something that moved over to the new version of the game, and that's where the problem starts to kick in. Considering pops do not have a upper limit, they will infinitely continue building more pops. In this particular case, it also applies to robots, because robots are specialists that can only work in certain types of buildings, such as mines, at least at their base tier. Once they become droids, they can work in more advanced buildings as well, and when they're synthetic, they are basically on par with normal pops. They are unemployed because there's literally no jobs available for them. And that right there is, in fact, a problem. So what we can do here instead is say, hey, these robot pops that are over here, let's find ourselves a place where we can put them to work in a efficient manner. So let's take a look here. We're going to build some mining districts over here. Just 3 back-to-back. Actually, let's make it 4, because we had, what, 3 robot pops available? And this is the planet of Paradise. So let's take a look here at our population, and let's just go and resettle them to Paradise, because that's where these jobs are going to become available. So we'll just start moving them over here, and there you go. And the robot pops are now off the planet, and as you can see, Leidelican Prime no longer has any unemployment. Paradise, however, does, indicated by that little red suitcase. However, we're working on this because the mining districts will come online soon. And as you can see here, there they are, the robots at the bottom. And that right there is a bit of a problem, because obviously we have some specialists available as well, but considering we only have interns, unpaid interns, they can no longer move into the specialist position. So we need to continue growing our population on this planet. How do we do that? Well, we can go, for instance, to, take a look here. at our pop screen here, we go to this particular screen and make sure that we're only growing humans, because only humans are allowed to work in those specialist jobs right now. The other ones, they are just born into a life of intern servitude forever. So we want to make sure that humans are on this planet, but habitability is pretty bad for them, which is a little bit unfortunate, and it does impact the happiness of the pups. But of course, that's where tech comes in, or we could just terraform the entire world. That is also an option, of course. Now, as you can see in this more advanced economy, there are planetary features here. These planetary features block some of our stuff, and we can, of course, remove all of this and get more districts available. The more of these blockers we remove, the better it gets. Same here for this industrial thing. For instance, we have a bubbling swamp. A bubbling swamp allows us to build a gas extractor, and let's take a look here if we can actually build one. There it is, a gas extractor. So we will queue that up. It will add a gas worker job. And apparently we need that gas worker job because we have some employment here. Unemployment here even. Or do we? We still have some robots that are not working in the jobs that they should be working in, which is a bit of a shame. And there's, of course, the industrial wasteland that I was talking about earlier, and we can remove that now because I kept that for this particular tutorial. But yeah, there you go. A more advanced economy that is a little bit more stable. As you can see, we are still in the negative when it comes to our energy credits. But what we can do is we can basically go into the market and say, hey, let's just sell some minerals just so we can float our economy in general. And that right there is something that I feel is rather important and that you need to keep an eye on. It is never difficult to keep your economy balanced. You can always move one resource into a different pool by selling and buying them quite quickly and making sure that everything is stable. Of course, once you start undocking your fleets, all bets are off because, well, those upkeep costs get pretty crazy, of course, as well. If you have any questions, please hop over towards the official Stellaris Discord. The link is in the description down below. Ping myself or just ask a question in the chat about the economy system because I will be happy to oblige. Of course, if there is thousands of you that decide that you want to ask questions, it may take a little bit of time. Take a ticket, stand at the end of the queue, and we'll see what I can do. But in the meantime, though, we're going to go and wrap up this video here. I want to thank you all so much for watching. This video has been made possible by Paradox Interactive, and it has been a generalized overview of the economy system within the new Stellaris update. There's so much more within the update that I could not even come close to cover in this video, but we'll leave that for another time. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about something else. That's right, we're going to be talking about the changes in space and how it affects your economy as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves and, as always, each other.